This is Mr. Shade. I want to review some of the things that we did last class, and we are starting with adding integers with no grouping symbols. Remember, we had our big story about the snakes and the aliens, about how the snakes want to stay with the other snakes and the aliens want to stay with the other aliens. And if you have snakes and aliens clash, then they cancel each other out. So we also practiced looking like this. So this is negative 24 plus 1. Or to say it another way, we have 24 snakes and 1 alien. So we know we're going to subtract. There's more snakes, so we know that snakes are going to win the battle. And we cancel out one of those 23 snakes with this one, or one of those 24 snakes, and it leaves 23. So negative 24 plus 1 is negative 23. Same thing here. We said we have 22 snakes, we have 24 aliens. Remember, the aliens are the positive sign, so we know that the aliens will win. So our answer is going to be a positive, or an alien, 2. So we did that last class, and then we talked about how to handle combining integers if we have a grouping symbol with them. And this says positive 4 plus a negative 2. So we talked about this is the same thing as having 4 aliens, and then we add 2 snakes to the aliens. So we know a positive 4 plus a negative 2 will be 2. We also know this. If we have the positive sign in between, then this is saying we have negative 7 plus negative 3. 7 snakes plus 3 more snakes equals 10 total snakes, or negative 10. We did that last class. I'd like to look at this. We're now talking about subtracting integers. Let me move that up. So we're talking about subtracting integers. Let's look here again at the addition. We did this last class, and we discussed if you have a positive sign and a negative sign next to each other with no number in between, that is in fact the same thing as saying negative 7 minus 3 equals negative 10. It's the same thing. We know that if we have 2 signs next to each other with no number in between, and I am going to say no number in between again, we know how to handle that. So subtracting integers, our goal is to have only 1 sign in front of each number. So we have 4 possibilities if we have 2 signs right next to each other with no number in between. Let's start with the easiest one, which is we have a positive sign and a positive sign. Those two would combine to equal just a single positive sign. So that's, for example, a positive number plus a positive number gets you a positive number. That makes sense. Let's look at this. We also have, I'll skip a space, we also have the possibility of adding a negative number. So the result is if we have a positive sign and a negative sign right next to each other with no number in between, we would treat that as a negative sign. We could also have minus a positive. So again, if you have 2 different signs, the result is always going to be a negative sign. This is, in my opinion, one of the most challenging things to remember with integers. If you are subtracting integers, if you have a negative sign and a negative sign, it turns out to be positive. I know that doesn't seem like that makes a lot of sense, but there's a reason that I put these in the order that I did. If we have 2 of the same sign right next to each other, it's positive. 2 of the same sign right next to each other is a positive. 2 different signs is negative. 2 different signs is negative. That's a good starting point. I will show you additional ways to solve these later, but that should get you started.